Hi, everyone. I'm James Garbutt.
And I'm Denny Dumas.
And this is the Garbutt Dumas Real Estate Podcast.
Are you ready, James?
I'm ready, Denny. I'm ready. It's been a while.
It has been a while, but we're back. This is exciting. The fall market is here. The summer was slow and steady.
You know, we took a little summer break and it looked like the market took a little summer break. Mm-hmm. And now it's exciting to be back here in September and talking about what's going on. Because I think when we were maybe doing our last update in June or July, momentum was it was easing. It was slowing.
Totally.
Buyers were slowing. Sellers were slowing. And now it seems like it's shifted and shifted in terms of the sellers aren't showing up and the buyers are still here building up. Mm-hmm. So it's I would say right at the moment, it's a hotter market than I anticipated a couple months ago.
I think talking about a slower summer needs a little bit of clarification. Over the summer months, I had a lot of people just reach out or see them, other realtors at showings, and they say, oh, it's so slow now. What does that actually mean? So my interpretation of what happened this summer was inventory went way down. There was not much for sale. A lot of people were traveling, doing other things, not thinking about real estate. There's still a lot of buyers out there, and the good product, the good single family homes, the good townhouses that did list were extremely busy. And we can share a couple of examples over the last, let's say 30 days, but slow means there just wasn't much activity because there wasn't much for sale.
Yeah, I think it's good to clarify. Slow in the summer is slow relative to the record months that were achieved in March and April of this year. Yeah. That were the record months recorded by the real estate board in terms of number of sales and transactions. So it's slowed relative to that. But every month this year, sales have been above the 10-year average. And even in August, the headline, the stats that came out from the real estate board was sales were 20% above the 10-year average. So it's not like they're, certain sales, March and April were record months ever recorded, but literally every month has been above the 10-year average. And to counter that, since March, the new listings coming onto the market have been below the 10-year average. So the listing supply the inventory is low. I think in the last 10 years, 2016 and 2020, COVID 2020 are the 2 years where the spring listing inventory was lower than this year. So in 2016, prices climbed a ton, if you remember back then. Inventory was low. And in 2020, we got hit by COVID and inventory went low. But other than that, other than those two springs, our supply of listings and new inventory is lower than any other year in the last 10 years, specifically since, say, June. Mm-hmm. So
I think one thing you said to me a couple days ago, we were just kind of connecting early September as we get going into this fall market, but yes, there's more listings. Yes, as soon as Labor Day happens, after that long weekend, we see a flood of new listings. And the comment you made to me was, it's not nearly enough supply for the demand.
It's not enough. It's not enough. I don't know if you recall the start of this year, there was such a low supply coming on the market. Every listing that hit, like all the realtors on our team, we could see everything. Like we're on top of every new listing because there just wasn't many to go around. You get a couple houses in New West, a couple in Port Moody. I mean, Burnaby's a big apple, so there'd be more. But it was easy to stay on top of literally the inventory. Yeah. and that went away. And that's kind of come back. Yeah. And, some of the conversations we've had with sellers in the last 30 days is, oftentimes in normal years, maybe you wait till after the Labor Day long weekend to list and you catch that September market. And last week was that first week after Labor Day where you expect a flood of listings. And yes, more came. This week, we'll see what comes, but we need an absolute flood of listings to kind of balance things out. Mm-hmm. And my guess is it's going to fall short. So, when we were looking at the way that the demand was and the lack of supply in August, I had a few clients, we listed a house in Cloverdale and it was insane. I mean, the house, it was a land value rancher corner lot on a 7,500 square foot lot. And 12 months ago, they were selling for, I think around, call it 950 to $1 million. But let's say 950. And then this one got 12 offers and sold for 1,235. and it's land value in Cloverdale. I mean, when you look at the new construction, the cost of construction, what a new home goes for on that lot, the numbers don't even make sense. But there was nothing available. We were the only listing available. We were in, and it got 12 offers, and it sold for a ridiculous price. And that 1,235 price that we sold for would have been $100,000 less 2 months ago, and it would have been $300,000 less, arguably 12 months ago. So that sale tells me on that land value in Cloverdale is up 30%, 33% in the last 12 months.
That's
which is crazy.
Yeah.
So that was when you get 12 offers on a land value listing that may have gotten, 3 offers a few months ago. You start wondering, where's this market going to go? Like, how much is this the start of the next, is it going to just get worse and worse and worse? Well, from what I've observed in the past and what we see in the past, sometimes, you get these one-off situations that are ridiculous, and this Cloverdale listing was one of them. Mm-hmm. The sales next February and March might be at the same level as that sale was today. But if more listings don't come and there's 11 buyers that missed out on that one, if the supply is tight, that's a sign that things are going to continue to climb.
Totally.
So who knows? Who knows what's around the corner? But I'm guessing that this fall is showing every sign that there's not going to be enough listings to meet the demand. And I would say on a macro level, we probably are going to see a 10% plus increase in sale prices from the sales that are happening, say, a month ago to what the prices might be in February. So this fall is going to be a frustrating fall for buyers. It's going to be a rewarding fall for sellers. But I think we need more sellers to come out of the woodwork. And in order for those sellers to come out, they need to be buying something to get them out of the woodwork. So
it's been a frustrating year for buyers, man. It's like talking to Lucas on our team last week. He's over the last, I don't know, I forget what it was, 30 or 40 days. So like just over a month, he's 1 for 14 writing offers for buyers.
Oof. That's not encouraging.
So yes, it's frustrating for Lucas, but it's so frustrating for the consumer who, when you're going into multiple offers, like you shared an example of a single family home in Cloverdale, so we'll use that. If you're writing an offer on that property and you saw a very similar one a month ago sell for $1,050,000, let's say, maybe 1.1, it's almost like a guess.
Yeah.
Like, how do you know what to write? I really want this property. The last one I saw sold for $1,075,000 or 1.1. Let's write 115, and then you're not even close, right? Sells for 80 or 90 grand above you. So as a buyer, it's so frustrating trying to figure out like what is the amount of money I should be spending on this that I'm not overpaying, but I can actually get home.
It's a jump. It's not, sometimes prices don't increase slowly. Sometimes the next sale is a 10% jump above the last one. Sometimes certain buyers that are less price sensitive get so frustrated with the market, they just throw it all on the table. Mm-hmm. And I mean, there was a house sale in New West last week. I didn't have a client offer on it. It was in Fraserview area, and it sold for 183. And I thought it was a 1.6 home. Like I thought if you offered 1.7, you got it for sure. 1.6 would have been my price 2 months ago. It sold for 183, which is probably, it would have been 1.5 12 months ago, and maybe 1.45 or so. But it's a big jump. So on an individual, you can easily find examples. I think the real estate board had New West single family homes up 20.9% in the last 12 months, but a good home that's move-in ready, that has a layout for a lot of families that works well. I mean, there's examples of 25, 30% jumps, and there's not enough of them. So who knows what the next one will be?
Totally.
A couple other examples, and these are more single family. In the last 30 days, there's been some more ridiculous bidding wars and sale prices than I've seen in, say, July or June or May. and some of the areas where I've been exposed to was one like Lynn Valley, showing some detached homes out that way. What was selling for 1.3 a year ago is about 1.7 right now. And that's kind of like the entry price point in Lynn Valley and in that West Lynn, Paris, West Lynn area. And that's a 30% gain for single family detached. Maple Ridge, up 30%. Houses that were $950,000 to $1 million 12 months ago are now 1.3, 1.35. Still good value out there. I mean, that's like a 10, 15-year-old house that's over 3,000 square feet. So it's good value. Port Moody up 26.5%. The interesting thing is, like, you get these stats about sales ratios and these examples that I'm providing, even though we're talking about 1.3, 1.7, they're under 2 million, which is the affordable price point for detached. We used to measure 1 million as the affordable price, but now it's under 2 million as the affordable detached price. Under 2 million, if the real estate boards for single family homes reflected affordable detached, the ratios are nuts. Like there's not enough selling. Everything is selling that's reasonably priced under 2 million. But when you isolate, say, suburb homes over 3 million, it is a strong buyer's market. So over 3 million, you might get 1 out of 20 listings selling in Burnaby, Coquitlam, Tri-Cities. In those markets, if you isolate just like the last 90 days and over 3 million, it's not a strong seller's market. But once you get 2 to 3 million, it starts becoming more in the seller's favor, and under 2 million, it is a strong seller's market. So there's not enough 3 millionaires out there, Denny.
There aren't. How does this end? How does this slow down?
I mean, my thought is it's not going to slow down this fall.
No.
Fall markets never loosen up enough. So you need some sort of, I think there's going to be something that comes from the outside in, whether it's increased rates or reducing credit or reducing lending in some sort of way. And my guess is they'll pull that lever probably next summer or next year sometime, if they have any levers to pull. But my thought would be, the moment there is a shift in the market and the media starts, putting negative headlines out real estate, because they're waiting for that 1 month that says the market is shifting. And once there's a story to tell, that might create some buyer fear. I mean, markets have shifted quickly in the past. What was it? Was it 2016 when the foreign buyer tax came in?
Yeah.
And even though the market was easing up to that foreign buyer's tax, that did give a little extra nudge to slow the market and put buyer confidence back.
Totally.
So my guess is if it's going to shift into a more balanced market where there's less craziness, it's probably not going to happen until next June or July. Like I feel we need, the fall market is usually not enough activity you need those buyers and the demand to, to go.
Yeah.
And I think what we'll need to see that is, well, fall's not going to do it. Then January and February are usually low in sales ratios listings and sales. So it's going to be March, April, May that are really going to have an absolute frenzy of activity to slow down the market. And right now there's no signs of a slowdown. So what do you think?
Personally, I think the elections in a week from now actually could put a touch of fear into buyers' minds. So a couple of the parties are talking about eliminating foreign buyers for 2 years. And just the announcement of that, or the implementation of that, potentially this fall or next year, whenever that happens, could put a little bit of fear in buyers' minds. And like the 15% foreign buyer tax in 2016, we saw a lot of people just take a step back and wait to buy. So potentially something like that. But other than that, I don't see it slowing down anytime soon. There has to be some sort of outside factor, or interest rates need to go back up to still ridiculously low, but 3.5%.
Yeah, if they go up to 3.5%, that's going to be tough for a lot of people to afford these homes.
Totally.
That would be a big shock. And I mean, the weird thing about now, that's still cheap money relative to inflation. I think our inflation is higher than that.
Yeah.
And so you're still in terms of, it's still a discount. Now I think 3.5% rates would probably really hammer the market.
Totally.
So, I mean, that's all it takes. But I don't know if they want that's going to affect, there are hot products out there and there are a lot of not so hot products out there.
Mm-hmm.
Say condos in New Westminster aren't thriving like detached homes are in other markets or even in New West. So that will affect the condo market as well. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure there's other markets around town that aren't necessarily benefiting from the post-COVID migration.
Yeah.
But I think these are unprecedented times. I think there's a lot of people that are recognizing they're working virtually or less in the office. There used to be a huge premium for living closer to the city than further out. Even in areas like North Van, Lonsdale was much more expensive than, say, Seymour side. Obviously, when you look at Fort Langley and Maple Ridge and Port Moody, all those areas are up significantly compared to, say, inner markets like Burnaby East or, I mean, East Van in some cases. East Van has always been my benchmark of the bulletproof market that is just the most always active.
Yeah.
And it still is, but it's definitely being overshined by like the Sunshine Coast and other markets that have just gone up way more. So I don't know where I'm going with this, Denny, but
we've given some single family home examples, but maybe let's give some townhouse and condo examples and just kind of share thoughts on, is the market very different for those types of products in different neighborhoods versus single family?
Well, townhouses, by the stats, like the macro real estate board stats, have been the hottest property type this year. It's been, and I think if you isolated lower priced detached homes versus townhomes, that might, knock it off its wagon. But single family stats include luxury, which knock it down. So townhouses are the most active product. They're the most, it's the strongest sellers market in townhouses. I mean, Monica on our team has this Coquitlam townhouse that looked at offers. Was it last week?
Friday. Yeah.
Friday. And the outcome there, what does that tell you?
I mean, that's a perfect example of what potentially, or where townhouses could be continuing to go this fall, is like the last sale on that complex was $950. Monica evaluated it at $950. Said, hey, there's nothing available. Let's try listing at $999.
That was the summer sale, I assume.
That was the summer sale.
Yeah.
Let's try listing at $999. 5 offers, sold $1,050,000.
So that's a 10-12% lift in 2 months. Yeah. So townhouses, they're just not making enough of them. I think, you're not seeing enough townhouses being built compared to the demand. A lot of people want to get out of a condo.
Yeah.
And I think it's apparent that they're going to have to leave the city or go to markets where they can afford that house. When I drive, say, up North Road, Coquitlam Burnaby border, and seeing these towers, I know that there's enough people out there that meet the demand of those towers, because it's not like they're being built overnight. It takes years to build a tower. But that's not the way a lot of people want to live. So yes, there's towers that are going to fix some of the housing crisis, but a lot of people want townhouses, half duplexes, and they're not making enough of those. So the shortage, the conversations around housing supply, I think that's going to be what we're going to be talking about for the next 10 years. And I don't see that getting solved anytime soon. I see people leaving, areas that have more houses, but I don't see cities like Tri-Cities, Burnaby New West. They're doing nothing right now to really fill in that townhouse demand, that in-between housing product between a house and a condo. Triplexes, you name it.
Do you think down the road, and based on the history of how slow Greater Vancouver has moved in terms of development and OCP and density, do you think there's a time where the city of Vancouver has 0 single families left? Like, they just continue to build out that it's like towers in the downtown core around the city, and then it goes like lower density as it moves out. But it seems like the problem is the amount of land to build these types of developments on, right?
Most of the land in Vancouver proper is, you can only do single family or duplex
Currently.
or a single family with a laneway.
Yeah.
Everything comes down to incentives.
Yeah.
Right? Incentives, well, so 2 things. One, the developers need the incentive to do the development, so the math has to make sense. The city has to process the permit in a timely manner, and the council needs to vote in line with an OCP that developers expect. So the moment, developers start acquiring land thinking, here's what the OCP is, this is what I can build on it, these are the incentives that are incentivizing me to buy this land, to do that development. The moment that those start getting voted down by council just because of NIMBYism or not my backyard, that's where, a market like Vancouver proper is so desirable from developers. It may be the one exception, but suburb markets like that have that sort of uncertainty of a development getting approved are very discouraging. So developers are, say, choosing, Port Coquitlam over developing in, say, Port Moody, or like Port Moody and New West to me stand out as 2 cities that I'm very familiar with, where there's not enough development going on in the cities. It's pretty clear that whether there's not enough incentives there, and I don't even feel that the council dynamic is encouraging development. So how is it going to be solved when what you see on the ground level is there's the OCP needs to be updated, the developers are turned off, and the council aren't approving these developments in some cases. And that's not going to solve the housing problem. No, I don't know what to say about that, Denny. It's a complex issue. I think the whole system is going to stay this way. It's never going to be solved in say a desirable city like Vancouver, Greater Vancouver. There's going to be cities like Abbotsford or Poco that are more developer friendly that will just get more development going on. But there's always going to be cities that aren't going to be development friendly. And how do you fix that? You ultimately have to change the system and take density away and developments away from the city's control. It needs to be like a provincial or federal thing, like a transit authority where they just force development, force progress, and that's a whole different world, and that doesn't exist today. And that has its issues as well. But I mean, you have to ignore NIMBYism, like not my backyard. You have to have people that approve these projects that aren't worried about getting voted back in. So councillors that don't care about what their neighbors think. And I don't see that happening anytime soon. So we're going to be talking about housing for a long time, and every election is going to be a topic, and it won't get solved, in my opinion.
Should we briefly share thoughts on condos?
Yeah. Well, I mean, what have you seen? And I mean, we do a lot of work around, say, New West, Port Moody. What are you seeing in the Port Moody condo market right now?
I'd say, like, overall, the kind of theme of this podcast has been, compared to 12 months ago, it's much better. Prices are higher. It's no different with condos. Condos activity last year was slower in most cities around Greater Vancouver, as this, we've talked about so many times of the moving out to the suburbs for more space, right? And Port Moody was a little bit bulletproof in that way. Port Moody was very, very active last year, even in the condo market, but other cities were not. New West is an example of your standard 2-bedroom condo. Those conversations last year with sellers last summer were, we're going to list it and I don't know if it's going to sell. And that conversation's definitely changed. The activity has improved quite a bit. I wouldn't say prices necessarily have climbed much, if any, maybe 5% in the last 12 months. And maybe you have stats that prove me wrong there.
Stats, no.
But the activity's definitely gone up. And even just in the last week and a half, 2 weeks, we've listed a handful of condos in New West, Burnaby, Port Moody. And they all have been much more active than they would have early in the year and way more than last year.
It's probably up 5 to 10% in most markets. There always are exceptions, but that is also mindful that the condos market was hit pretty good, in 2020. Yeah. And I specifically remember certain Yaletown downtown core condos that were just struggling, and the listings were building up in each building. So it is more of a seller's market than before. Condos are having a comeback due to affordability and people wanting them, and they're not making enough of them. And the new ones that are coming out are very expensive. Yeah. I guess one thing that I've kind of observed in the last 30 days is the demand for new construction condos. Like, I don't know what you've seen, but North Harbour and North Vancouver was insane. They sold out their first phase. I think they had 1,300 people register for 160 or 170 units available. Everything sold. It was by lottery system. So, you just fill out their form and you wait for you hope you get one. And then they tell you the price and you say yes. So, and those were, we're talking, I think they're around, what was it? A 568 square foot unit was $740 plus GST. So $800,000 for 568. So I don't know the math off the top of my head, but I want to say it's around $1,500 a foot, maybe $1,400 a foot. Yeah. Beautiful development, North Vancouver on the water. This one was 1 bedroom facing the side of the building. But yeah, it was sold out in a frenzy. And I think there's probably other developments that experienced the same. That's the only one that I was involved in.
Did you get one?
We did.
Nice.
Yeah, we had to sign up 3 people to get one. Really? So it was 1 for 3. Oh, man. And you choose, each person gets 3 suites selected, and just only one of them. Yeah.
Was it the same family that signed up 3 different people?
Oh, no comment, Denny. No comment.
I always think, I remember Pier West and New West, I think it sold early 2018. They had something ridiculous, 3,500 request forms for 600 units. And I remember being in there and just being like, how many of these are just duplicates? Like, what realtor put down the husband, the wife, the kid who's 3 years old, like the brother-in-law, like fill out 9 request forms for one family that wants 1 unit.
They are still pounding pilings into the Fraser River.
Oh man.
Build that. I mean, at least it's Boza. They got to know what they're doing. But man, when I look at that construction site, I feel like it's going over budget.
And they're not out of the ground.
They're not, but they got such high prices for their units. Like even those people that bought, like they launched at such a frothy time, at such a hot time.
Perfect.
And even the prices that people were paying in that development today, if it completed today, I think people would be taking a loss on what they paid. That will possibly change by the time it's complete 3 years from now. But I don't even know what the outside date is on their construction. It is long.
We just got an update a month or two ago. It's been 3.5 years. They're not out of the ground yet. And they've asked for an extension on the outside date now.
And to be clear, this is Pier West by Boza and the waterfront of New West. It's going to be the iconic development of New West, the tallest towers. But
if and when it goes
up. If and when. But I feel bad for the businesses that are around there because every day it's just, you just hear this piling machine smashing metal into the ground.
Yeah.
But I think what we're in for new construction pre-sale launches, I think developers know the dynamic of the market right now. I think we're going to see a lot of project launches, maybe this fall, but definitely next spring. And I think they're going to have lineups out the door. And I think a lot of those buyers are speculating. And I think the prices that the developers are going to ask are going to be about 15 to 20% above comparable products that are in the resale market. And what I mean by that is like if you're buying a 1-bedroom, 600 square foot that's completing in 4 years, you're probably paying 15, 20% more than an existing 1-year-old 1-bedroom that is very comparable on the market today. That was the dynamic of the hot spots of like when Pier West launched in 2018 and certain other hot condo markets, 2017 comes to mind.
Yeah.
But there was times in history where a new condo was at the same price as a resale condo. It's just been so long since that, years. But I want to say 5-10 years ago, that's very vague. But there was definitely moments where you would buy a new condo because it was a similar value to an existing condo. And nowadays, I don't think that's happening.
I remember it was maybe late 2015, I sold a townhouse in Surrey that was $369,000, 10 years old, 3 bedrooms with a garage. Across the street is brand new construction that is the exact same price.
Yeah.
Brand new townhouses. And Surrey Langley are a bit of different apples. Coquitlam too has a lot of newer construction and newer townhomes where every year there's newer and newer product. Whereas in other neighborhoods closer to the city, that doesn't exist.
We're talking about, I wonder what their construction costs are going to amount to. Like anyone that's, if you sold out a pre-sale condo 2 years ago, you were basing on 2 years, and you're breaking ground today, you might be in for a little surprise on the cost of construction. Like that's one thing that's, I think, a little bit different in this market than any previous market where I haven't seen in my lifetime or in my real estate lifetime costs go up so much in a short period of time. And so the value of a structure has gone up in value. Like if you have a real dated and 3,000 square foot home, that dated shell of a home has gone up in value because of how expensive it is to build. Example that was given to me by a local builder here in New West, what was, say, a year ago, $200 a foot is now likely going to be $275 a foot. And that is around the starting price point of new construction in suburb markets like New West or Tri-Cities. Maybe you can do it for $250. Obviously, the price per foot of construction cost depends on the size of the home and the quality of construction. But, in North Vancouver, I would anticipate it's probably going to be $350 a foot and up. And in the west side of Vancouver, it's probably going to be $400 a foot and up. But maybe out in Surrey, you can still get $200 a foot. But, it's everything is expensive. So one thing, structures are through the roof. Supply chains are all messed up. You got to, if you're ordering appliances, you got to get them a year in advance or so. I'm very curious to see what happens in the world of supplies and construction, because if the costs of construction are high And if the lead time to get these things built is long, and if cities don't change and the new permits and new supply continues to be lower than demand, it's just going to make things worse. So, I think when I look at this year, supply inventory is low, sales are month over month above the 10-year average, and the last 30 days of sales has been really insane for in terms of bidding wars, multiple offers. And the cost of construction, I think we're going to see more cost to go on the rise moving forward. Everything is telling me that this is unprecedented times. We're going to see potentially another 20% lift in prices between now and next summer. And that's after 30% year over year lifts that we've seen in the last year. So it's crazy. Mm-hmm. But maybe it's not when you consider interest rates and inflation and everything else that's going on in the world. But I feel for buyers not in the housing market. And if you're sitting on an extra property as a seller or homeowner, it might be the next 12 months might be a good time to unload that extra rental.
I agree. I totally agree. It's hard to see the end. Like, it's hard to see what is going to, like, I asked you a question earlier, what's going to slow it down? And we both are struggling for answers just because the supply is so low.
I think cities need to do a real revamp of their OCPs, or official community plans, rezone significant parcels of land in the cities and do it fast. Don't wait for public input for 2 years. A lot of cities have this 2041 vision. That's not far enough out. Go further out. So on the city level, a huge update to every OCP and rezoning and making that don't force developers to rezone a property. Just rezone land so developers know what they can do. Everything comes down to incentives. And if a city doesn't have enough supply coming in, they're not having enough incentives. So there's a reason why there's not a lot of cranes in New Westminster, and there's more cranes in Burnaby. Mm-hmm. Incentives, So I don't think it's going to come to a close anytime soon, but I do feel that if we have a very busy spring in 2022 and they hike the interest rates and pinch the credit in some way next summer, there's still a lot of people that want to move and change where they live, and I think that's going to take 6 months to 12 months to get through. Maybe even 2 years. But at some point they'll do that. It will shift, because these crazy times always get a little bit of a counterbalance. It doesn't usually just the market level off and things stay flat. It usually gets to a crazy, crazy peak. Then it comes back 10, 20%. Then there's negativity and fear out there. And then it slowly works its way back up. That's been the cycle so far anyway, over the last 14 years since I've been in the business.
What year are you running for council?
Oh, never. Any closing thoughts in the market, Denny? Any wisdom to share with buyers looking out there right now?
Stay patient.
Stay patient. And I guess don't be ashamed to put in a price and an offer that is above the last sale on the neighborhood, because the sale price that happens next sets the precedent for the one that's going to happen after that. Mm-hmm.
I think it's just the reality of what's going to happen this fall.
Yeah. And for sellers, we are back in the market where if you're looking to buy, like if you're selling because you want to upgrade, most of the clients that we're working with are buying first then selling. And that whole buy first then sell equation also keeps the supply low, which is also part of the problem.
And realtors know that this is going to be a really busy fall. So be organized, set showing times, have an offer date. If it's going to be a busy product. There's a home that we're seeing today in Coquitlam that listed on Wednesday. First showings from 4 to 5 p.m. on Monday, offers anytime. There's a single family home in Coquitlam that is allowing 4 showings today.
And offers anytime?
Anytime.
I might be leaving some people without seeing the home. Feels good to be back here, Denny.
Sure does.
Let's see what the fall brings.